Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Red River Roundup right here on 446 Sports. My name is Marshall Leffler. We're presented, as we have been all season, by Gridiron Football USA and the Gridiron All American Bowl game, which will be taking place later this month right here in Sinlaw at Louisiana Christian University. Well, we've got 3 more days of high school football left. All of those will take place in the Superdome in New Orleans. 16 teams are left. 8 state championships remain to be decided. And we had I'll call it a perfect night of semifinal football action last night. I think we had more than one overtime game, had a few upsets depending on how you picked them. Had a few teams that we expected to win that did just that. And we've got a lot of quality football games to cover. We will go over the results real quickly, and then we'll bring on Jace Lejeune, lead beat reporter for Gridiron Football USA, who's going to help us recap just about all the action that we saw, and then we'll bring on some of our other analysts as we have throughout the season. Starting in Division I, non-select, Ouachita Parish gets a win over Neville, so they will take on Ruston, who defeated Zachary. In Division I select, Edna Carr beats Catholic High, so the Cougars will take on the Purple Knights of St. Aug, who defeated John Curtis. Division II, North DeSoto over Plaquemine, Iowa over Bell Chase, Griffins and Yellow Jackets in the final. St. Charles defeats U-High. Shaw defeats Vanderbilt Catholic, so the Comets and Eagles will face off in the finals. Gina Giants 30-6 over Union. Sterlington Panthers 63-38 over St. James. Panthers and Giants in the finals. Dunham with a 1-point win over LCA, and Calvary Baptist gets a win in overtime over Notre Dame. So Dunham and Calvary in the finals. And in Division IV, Haynesville over Jeanerette, Mangum over South Platte. 2 big wins there. Dragons and the Tours will meet in the finals. And finally in select, Ascension Catholic over Westminster, Riverside over Ascension Episcopal. So the Bulldogs and Rebels will face off in the finals. Enough from me. Let's talk to our expert, Jace Lejeune with Gridiron Football USA. And Jace, let's start with Edna Carr over Catholic High. A lot of people said that this is a game that could take place this way, that Catholic could give Edna Carr this type of game. Just watching the score as it went, it looks like it was a real quality semifinal matchup.
Oh yeah, Marshall. Glad to be on with you as always. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you expect from Catholic and then the car. Just being a part of that game last year, just being around in that semifinal game and calling that last year, you kind of knew that it was going to be a game decided down to a couple plays. And this year, Catholic's defense has done really 2 years in a row. They've done a really great job of limiting a really explosive Edna Carr offense. But at the end of the day, really this was all about Edna Carr's defense. And I think they've done a little bit differently than last year. Edna Carr, you talk about the Cougars this year compared to last year. Last year, I mean, their defense was really good, obviously, but their wide receiver crew was stacked. Wide receiver core was stacked last year. And I think this year when you have guys like 15 players that have signed to play college football. A lot of that was on the defensive side of football, especially in the secondary, the Aiden Halls of the world, the Hayden Howards of the world. And then you look at the front seven, too. Richard Anderson, also an LSU signee. I just felt like that this was going to be that type of game that you're going to rely on Edna Carr's defense. And you got to get a lot of kudos to Catholic's defense as well. But you knew Catholic was going to be one of those teams that wasn't going to be intimidated by Edna Carr. You knew it was going to be a really heavyweight championship type of matchup. And for the second year in a row, Edna Carr found a way and just made a couple more plays than Catholic. But really, like we talked about on our show earlier this week, you knew Catholic belonged on the same field with Edna Carr. It's going to come down to who's going to make those plays, and Carr did.
Yeah, it's, they faced off against the District 2-5A last year in the finals in the Ash Trojans. This year, they'll get another Catholic League matchup against Coach Valdez and the Purple Knights, who I believe got a walk-off win
They
over
did.
Curtis.
They did. I mean, a walk-off win at the buzzer. Vaishon Kulon. It was crazy. I watched the last couple seconds of that game. I just hung back and just watched the streams on Friday night, just kind of soak everything in. But yeah, I mean, John Curtis scored with like 39 seconds left to go ahead. And any other team would probably back down, especially with John Curtis getting a last second touchdown. But man, I mean, Vaishon Kulon was calm and poised that entire drive. No incomplete passes and just bang, bang, bang. They just went right down the field and scored that touchdown on the last play of the game. And Coach Valdez, talking to him last night, he told me that Vaishon actually called that play. For a quarterback to call that play in that moment. And that really shows a lot about this Purple Knights football team and what he has done in just his second year there to bring the Purple Knights back to the state championship for the first time since 1979.
Yeah, we were talking last night in the booth. Crazy to think St. Aug actually doesn't have one of these, so it'll be a really good game. I mean, and a matchup you could have prayed for at the beginning of this season. Plaquemine goes up to North DeSoto. That was a just back and forth, seemingly one possession game. It was tied at 44, and then the Griffins scored the last 2 touchdowns. Luke Delafield had a huge night running the ball, both from a yards and touchdown standpoint. But those are the kind of things that happen in the playoffs. It's something that you wouldn't have scouted or really considered all season. And not that he can't do it, but really interesting to see how North DeSoto finds a way to get it done against a Plaquemine team that had a ton of momentum.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting game, and just seeing the stat line and what happened. Like, you never expect a quarterback like Luke Delafield, who's thrown for over 10,000 yards his career, and I believe he only threw for like 20 yards or something like that the entire game. It wasn't like this gaudy passing stat line from him, but that's a really good Plaquemine secondary. I mean, Roger Bingham's the Raging Cajun signee, UL, but yeah, it was Delafield's legs that made the difference in that game. 170 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Like, it just came down to, you knew it was going to be this type of shootout when you talk about Dennis Dunn and North DeSoto, but unconventional. But North DeSoto was able to find a way to score those points and punch that ticket to the dome.
And then really another high-quality game out of areas that you cover in D2 Select, St. Charles with an overtime win over U-High. Can't really say that you're surprised by that being a hard-fought ball game between those two teams, both of whom really deserve to be in the Superdome.
Yeah, they did, and that's one of those games that I don't look as dumb from earlier this week. I did call that one right, but I expect that to be close. U-High with their talent, and that they're like the revenge tour, and all we can say about U-High this year. But I mean, at the end of the day, St. Charles Catholic, you're just going to have to beat them. It's just one of those teams that, Wayne Stein always has these guys playing the right position. They're well coached, probably as well coached as anybody in the state of Louisiana. And you may be the more talented team, but for 48 minutes, and in this case, even more, because this game went into overtime, you're just going to have to just outplay them and earn it. And that's, you're going to have to earn a win when you play against St. Charles Catholic. And the comments after what was a down year last year, a lot of it had to do with injuries and just being a young team. But really, the last year kind of set the stone, the building blocks for this year, because you built a lot of depth from last year's team, a lot playing a lot of young guys. So, St. Charles Catholic back in the dome, and we know what Wayne Stein has done in his first couple of years, just winning state championships like his first 2-3 years leading the program. So the comments are right back where they feel like they belong, and they have a great shot at winning another one and add another championship to the trophy case.
Speaking of back to the dome, along with Haynesville and maybe some other returners, Shaw is back there. They've been kind of the king of the shutout this season, whether it's on offense for them or what their defense is able to do. But they go into Vanderbilt Catholic and blank the Terriers to return to Poydras.
Yeah, their defense has been playing probably like they're playing one of the hottest defenses in the state right now,
Yeah.
regardless of classification. And this year it was really just about the offense because of what they missed last year from last year. You know, Mason Wilson, their quarterback last year. You get Jasper Parker, you got Washington, the receiver, both signed with Michigan. Like that's a lot of firepower to lose on the offensive side of football, but fortunately for Archbishop Shaw, the defense was mostly intact. He returned a lot of them on defense, and you see what they've done this year. And we've seen what they can do against really talented offenses. I mean, they only held St. James to like 20 points this year, and I mean they've also they frustrated LCA and Brandon Walker. Brandon Walker threw a couple interceptions against this Shaw defense. So yeah, defense wins championships. Hank Tierney is there's a reason why he's one of the best coaches in the state of Louisiana, and he just found a different way this year, leaning on the defense and leading them to get to the state championship game. Something tells me if you have an over/under for the state championship game, probably have to go with the under with these two great defenses going at it, two physical football teams. It's going to be a chess match when we talk about Wayne Stein and Hank Tierney against each other in the dome.
So speaking of the overs and unders, I don't, obviously I don't think there's been anybody that would have been surprised by any outcomes last night.
Mm-hmm.
Team A or Team B won.
Sure.
It's the way the semifinals is. I don't know if there was anyone outside of a couple miles from around their campus that thought that Sterlington would essentially get St. James into a running clock game. They scored from looking at it, it had to have been the opening possession or shortly thereafter, and Sterlington was out ahead, outscoring St. James all night long, 63-38. Panthers over the Wildcats. Again, not shocked at either team winning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I did not expect that margin.
No, I did not expect that margin either. I actually picked St. James to win the game, so that was one of the games, and then that made me look smart. But I just called that St. James game team the week before when they dominated Oak Grove, and I just thought the offensive firepower that they had, the skill talent was going to keep up with Sterlington. And how that game started, it looked like it was going to be another classic Sterlington St. James shootout early on, and Sterlington had trouble early on with St. James' speed, and then St. James just it was tough for them to stop the powerful running game that Sterlington had, and at that point, the way the game was going, it was just going to come down to what defense was going to settle in, and at that point, when you're just methodically moving the ball downfield and you're running the football at will, like that's the path that's going to be harder to stop. And in this case, that's what it was for St. James. It's harder to stop when you got them running downhill and they're running right at you. And that's what Sterlington did the entire night, and St. James couldn't stop it.
Yeah, and another high-scoring game, which some of the high scores did surprise me just because of how cold it was, and but shows what I know. A classic, Dunham with a 1-point win over LCA, who I thought LCA had a little bit more on their too deep to pull this one out, but you've said it for months now. Dunham is that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the best Dunham team, and Neil Warren. This is the third team he's sent to the Dome in 4 years.
Yeah, right.
But I would have to say this is the best Dunham team he's ever had. And that defense is really good. They just played against an offensive juggernaut against LCA, and I have to say about that LCA game. There isn't a team that deserved to lose that game at night. I mean, I felt like you sent both those two teams to the Dome after that game. I feel like both of them deserved it. But we talked about it. The difference in that game, watching that game, it was not only Elijah Haven, but it was those receivers. There were plenty of moments in that game where LCA was in perfect coverage, perfect position, and then Jarvis Washington would catch a 50-50 ball, or Chris Thomas would catch a 50-50 ball. And there were times where the pass rush was right on top of Elijah Haven, but being as big as he is, I mean, he kind of reminds me of like a Ben Roethlisberger type, like it's just really hard just to bring him to the ground. And there's like guys draped all over him, and he's just nonchalantly just throwing the ball downfield to these guys. So he was really the difference. And Marshall, I'm not sure you know this, but Hayden threw out a stat last night. Elijah Haven has 175 touchdowns after last night. That's 2 behind the Vermilion Catholic Jonathan D'Artes quarterback for all time. And he actually went ahead Jawan Johnson at LCA to get ahead of him last night. And the crazy thing is he still has another full year. He still got his whole senior year left in front of him. So the all-time touchdown record, it was broken the last 2 years by Jawan and by John D'Artes. But now it's going to be pretty tough to catch up with Elijah Haven, considering that has a chance to beat the record in the Dome and still has another full year to extend that record.
Another kind of surprising score, just by margin. South Plaquemine, they do make a long trip up to Mangum, but they did go early, and that's an experienced team, obviously, the defending champions. Very, very proud, very happy for the Mangum Dragons to get that win. But what did it look like to you that allowed Mangum to just pull away so early and really never give the Hurricanes a chance?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those games we talk about Mangum and South Plaquemines. Like, you knew like a 2-3 seed, no matter who was going to be seeded, it was going to be the most important probably seeding out of all the divisions, just because of how far of a drive it is between Mangum and South Plaquemines. You're talking about the near top of the state and the near bottom of the state. So you knew that was going to make a difference. It made a difference last year. I mean, when Mangum had to make the drive to South Plaquemines. So you see it this year as well. Coach Wilcher, he's also one of the most underrated coaches in the state for what he's done with the Mangum Dragons. And Tommy Tharp has gotten the Dragons in the Superdome 3 straight years in a row, but they haven't won it. So this is an opportunity for them to get there. But obviously they've run the ball really well. They got a really talented, I think, a sophomore quarterback for them as well at Mangum. So they can score and keep up with Haynesville. So that should be a fun matchup. But they're just too much, for South Plaquemines. And I'm not sure how much the drive really played a role in that one, because I heard South Plaquemines was there at the hotel like the night before, and they played the next day. But still, that is a lot for a team, especially for a 1A team. That was probably making the drive up there in a yellow bus, not one of those charter buses, probably. Yeah. So it's a lot on the team to handle that, especially against a really good team in Mangum. So but congratulations to Coach Wilcher and the Dragons. I know they've been kind of hovering around the quarterfinals, semifinals, so the last couple of years, but the breakdown through that door, there are a couple of teams that done that. I mean, Iowa, Gina, those are a couple of teams that were able to do that. They're kind of floating around quarterfinal, semifinal every year, but for them to break down through that door and get there, major kudos for them to do that.
Yeah, and looking at D4 Select real quick, I did think Ascension Catholic had enough, offensive firepower to kind of potentially overwhelm Westminster, and I also thought Riverside, with the pedigree that they've got the past few years, they would be able to kind of continue that familiarity and get to the Dome as well. So we'll have the Bulldogs and Rebels in the finals in D4 Select on Thursday.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun game. That's actually one of the games I'm most looking forward to watching. I mean, Trevin Simon is including. Speaking of records, he's also being the all-time single season rushing yards and touchdowns. It seemed like he ran for another 6 touchdowns, 300 yards. That didn't shock me last night about Ascension Catholic. I knew they won't put points up on the board, but how their defense was able to shut down that Westminster offense was really the shocking part to me. The game was 33-0 at halftime, and for them just to cruise to that victory. Man, was I wrong about that game for sure. But Ascension Catholic, what a performance for Coach Taylor James in his first year to lead the Bulldogs to the Superdome, and they got a great shot. But Riverside Academy has been on the roll as well. Jane Abikwe has gone on his run as well. I think he scored 6 touchdowns last night with Lucas Hill told me last night, who was covering the game. But against a really good Ascension Episcopal defense that's been really playing some really good football. So that should be a fun one, and that will be on the first day. I think it's the second game in the Dome. But if you like great running back play, you get a chance to both teams with great offensive lines, great running game. You expect that type of game in the Superdome.
Yeah, both Division IV games on Thursday, and then I think D3 Select on Thursday as well. Last thing before we get you out of here, and I appreciate you shifting times around and getting everything done this morning. Looking at Division I non-select, I'll just say it: Ruston being there, not a surprise to me at all. And yeah. Not that I'm the foremost expert, but I do know this district. I do my best to cover the teams in the district on a weekly basis and have been around a lot of these programs. So Ruston, not a shock. Ouachita, to me, that's a shock. And to only hold Neville to 7 points at their stadium, some people have picked Ouachita to make this kind of run. Why were they right in making that pick?
Yeah, it's a really good pick. I knew Ouachita was one of those trendy teams going into it, just because the record doesn't tell the whole story. Usually there's that saying, like you are what your record says you are. But this is pretty much an exception when we talk about Ouachita, because you know that in this district, you know how tough it is in 2-5A. But 3 of their 4 losses were decided by 1 touchdown or less, including the rematch you're about to see in the Superdome against Ruston. So this feels different for a state championship game, because usually when you have a number 1 seed, Ruston in the Dome for the 4th straight year, and they're building a dynasty over there with Coach Jared Ball. But there's a team that's not going to be intimidated. It's not going to be just this Cinderella team that hopes they have a fighting chance. They can already compete with Ruston. That was one of their 1-score games in the regular season. So that they're going to be able to compete with Ruston. They're not going to be intimidated by Ruston. So this, instead of like a David versus Goliath type of matchup, you feel like that this is going to be a heavyweight matchup. And really, I feel like Ouachita has a great shot at winning this game.
Yeah. I mean, 2 teams that, right, there's no intimidation. There's nothing odd surrounding the game. It's just another game between these 2 teams that are rivals, that are district rivals. And it'll be a good one. And really, at this point, it's like looking at this bracket and all these teams that are still in it, you're like, boy, they really do deserve to be there. So it's been fun to get to that point of the season. Jace Lejeune, lead beat reporter for Gridiron Football USA. Check him out at gridironfootballusa.com and follow Jace online. He's as good as it gets in Louisiana. Jace, really appreciate you helping us recap all these games, and we'll see you next week in New Orleans.
Absolutely looking forward to it. Should be a fun one. Can't wait for Superdome week, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to it.
Yep. Appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. As always, thank you so much.
Have a good morning.
Yep.
That's Jace Lejeune. He was covering pretty much all the games that he was able to watch last night, and does a great job, as always, covering football in the state of Louisiana. The Gina Giants kicked down the door. They will be heading to Superdome, headed to the Superdome for the first time in school history. So let's bring on the voice of the Gina Giants and the host of the walkthrough, Austin Watley. And Austin, just a very unique night at Guy Campbell Memorial Stadium. I was covering that game as you were, and I really just intently took the time to just stand on the sideline after the game and just watch, not just the team, not just the staff, but the families and everyone just kind of soak in that moment. We'll talk about that in just a minute and just kind of how you experienced it. But I really thought, coming into the game, it was, is Gina's offense going to be slowed down? Because it just hasn't been. They've just been able to kind of get their average even in the playoffs. Last night, they really went in the bag, ran it up the middle a bunch, play action, running back pass, got Adrian Sharp involved on a really nice, ball fake and got down the field, used Cooper when they needed to. Really, Coach Roark had a play call for almost every situation last night. And while they only scored 30. It's not like they got in the 60s like they normally did. Offense did what it needed to do to stay in control.
Yeah, really, to me, the difference in this game and 2 years ago was the start. The The play calling was right on point. But getting those first 2 drives, getting touchdowns, where 2 years ago on our first drive, we fumbled the ball. Union Parish recovered it, ran it back for a touchdown. Our start was so much better, and the kids wanted it so bad that when you got off to that great start, they started believing then. But yeah, we kind of laughed that halfback pass. I've seen them practice that for years, and I don't know if I've ever seen it in a game. And they called it last night, and Cedric made a perfect throw to Zadrian and set up a big play for our second scoring drive. But yeah, really proud of those guys, and it was an exciting night last night.
Yeah, and I will say too, is a good job by Ced to throw that ball, but having Adrian Cooper on the other end to make sure that ball comes down on a black jersey is nice to have too. Defensively, they hold Union to one long touchdown run from the quarterback. And again, I'm certainly surprised by Sterlington putting up 63 points on St. James. So looking early on at this game, and we'll have a lot to, that goes into preparing for it. Do you see more of a low scoring game, or do you see Sterlington and Gina using their rushing attacks to maybe get over 40 points apiece?
I mean, you would think with 2 teams that like to run the ball, you wouldn't say that there would be a high scoring game, but
exactly,
both offenses have been so good this year and scoring a lot of points that
exactly right.
And both teams are familiar with each other. I think we played in the semifinals last year, but we haven't played in the regular season, but we played them in jamborees. We're very familiar with their program, and they are with us too. Going off of what they did last year, they were very good up front, but it would not surprise me if this ends up being kind of a high-scoring game, maybe in the 30s, 40s, both teams. But it's just going to be a good one, going to be a fun one.
What do you think, and Coach Roark, he's good at finding different ways to win, whatever it takes on that given night. What do you think mostly about the game last night for Gina? What do they take with them? Because it'll be indoors, so you're not dealing with weather or anything like that. But what went well for Gina last night? Do you think that team is saying, okay, look, that is definitely something we want to take with us to New Orleans?
I think the 2 biggest things is defense played their best game last night. These young guys have grown up now and are figuring it out. They played very well last night. And then one thing, just in my opinion, from last year, our offensive line has improved a lot. Against the 3 times we've played Union Parish before, we've never been able to run the ball on them like we did last night. And we were able to move their big guys where – last year, I mean, we against Sterlington, we didn't do that very well last year. And I think it gives us a lot of confidence in how well our offensive line played last night. I mean, yes, Cedric and Daniel, they're great running backs, but they had some big lanes to run through, and that helps out with that as well. So I think that's the biggest thing is the defense playing well, and the offensive line played really well last night.
And look, and I'll add this too. Obviously, a successful night on offense. There were several runs up the middle for both Daniel and Ced that were 1-2 yards where Union was able to kind of stop them there at the line of scrimmage. So that's what I thought was impressive, that when, Union's defense is going to make stops. It's not like they're just going to give up 70 points. They're going to make some stops. They're going to get you into some long down and distances. But with Gina just being able to kind of adjust from first to second to third down, I thought was key for them to get bottled up on a run, but then have another one to where they could get a first down and move the chains. And then also able to kind of just stay disciplined. Union had penalties seemingly almost every key drive. There was some penalty, whether they were on offense or defense, that set them back. Gina was able to kind of control that part of the game as well. So again, got to spend some time on the field last night and just kind of take in and watch that Gina community take in that moment. Y'all are in the press box, doing your post game and everything, but just take me through your experience last night, y'all's experience last night, and how it felt to. I know the term was kick down the door, but sure did that in Gina last night.
It just was special. I mean, it's something that's been worked on for years. I've been fortunate enough that growing up, I mean, I remember when we won our first playoff game in 2000, and I thought that was just the greatest thing ever as a junior high kid that we finally won a playoff game. And then to make it to the quarterfinals, and then Coach Roark coming in, and he said from day one, this was the goal, to get to the Superdome and play for a state championship. And you got to kind of remind him, like, well, we're Gina. We don't do that. I mean, we're just happy making the playoffs. And to see it each year get better and bigger and bigger, the community, I mean, our fans, when we go on road trips, they pack the stadium. There's so many times where we have more fans on the road than the home team does. And they did their job last night. They made lots of noise, did a great job. And then the kids, you're talking about Union stopping us on some short plays, but then we're coming back with a big play. The maturity of our kids 10 years ago, I don't know if our kids could do that, where, they would have, if you didn't have a big play, they would have got their head down, but they had maturity last night of knowing it's just the next play. We got to keep playing our brand of football, and we're going to be okay. And that's just the whole culture that Coach Roark has built. And that was what was special last night. It was just thinking about over the years, all the players that have come through, all the different coaches that have come through. It's been a part of it, and just seeing it all come to fruition last night.
Yeah, I even saw a smile on Coach Roark's face several times in the postgame. So that was certainly a special night. I was glad to experience it with a part of that community, and man, it'll be a fun week in prep. So I'm assuming y'all will be there in the Superdome broadcasting. And are y'all going to be doing the walkthrough this week from Gina before you hit the road? Or
yes, we'll do the show Wednesday night, and then we'll probably leave Thursday morning.
Good, yeah.
The plan is for the team, I think, to leave Thursday, stop somewhere, go through a walkthrough practice, and then stay Thursday night and be ready for Friday.
Yeah, and I know they held some practice on LCU's field this week just to give the grass a break. But that's a little bit of reps you get on turf, so that will help as well. So really an exciting week for y'all, for the walkthrough, and for the team as well. So Austin, man, appreciate your time. Congratulations. It's really fun. I've gotten to broadcast a game in the radio booth at the Superdome before. It's a blast, and I know y'all had the time of your life as well.
Hey, we appreciate your coverage this year and all you've done. And I was excited to talk to you this morning because you said it was your first time coming to Guy Campbell, and I was curious what your thoughts were on the atmosphere.
Look, I mean, I really love but we were on the visitor side, so by the time the ball kicked off, you saw that it was full on the home side. But man, that field house area down there, kind of seeing what's been built over there and all the way that fans and alumni get to gather over there. Where else would you want to be on any Friday night? And it was a blast to spend the semifinal night there as well. So yeah, it was thrilling.
All that is very new. I almost wish you could take, and I'm sure there's a picture somewhere, but either take a video or a picture from when Coach Roark started till now, the difference in what the whole stadium and everything looks like till now. It would show you all the hard work that's been put in, and that's how it's gotten to this point.
You're giving me story ideas as we speak, man. I'm so appreciative of your time, not only today, but this season, and kind of getting to know you, getting to work with you a little bit. Very, very happy for y'all. And I'll certainly come find you next week when we're in New Orleans.
Yeah, we'll be down there. We'll be looking for you, Marshall.
All right, Austin. Congrats. Enjoy the win, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Austin
Watley, the voice of the Gina Giants, host of the Wednesday walkthrough that takes place in Gina every week. Brant and Austin do a great job. They're living the dream, getting to cover Gina athletics, and they'll have a trip to the Superdome. Another team that will have a trip to the Superdome is the Iowa Yellow Jackets. Chasten Tavares had that call on 92.9 The Lake last night, and Chasten, I was super high on Bell Chase's defense coming into the season. They gave up 19 points to St. Charles in the regular season. They gave up 19 points to Patterson in the regular season. And other than that, they have basically held teams to single digits. Iowa comes in really from the get-go and is able to get their offense going. They get 4 touchdowns, and they get a one-possession win.
Yeah, look, that was one of the best defenses I've ever seen. Look, nothing came easy for Iowa. I think their touchdowns was like a 1-yarder, a 2-yarder, a 3-yarder. I'm not sure if they had 150 total yards of offense. Look, Iowa's defense was able to force 4 turnovers in that football game. And look, they defense is what both of those coaches hang their hats on, and that's what it ended up coming down to was Iowa was able to make a couple of plays defensively, a little bit more than Bell Chase, and ended up kind of what got them the win. But what a football game! I mean, look, it started off kind of no score in the first quarter, kind of a slugfest early. Then they jump out 7-0. Iowa comes right back with the touchdown to get it 8-7. We go to halftime, and look, it was Iowa came out. The third quarter was the game. They're able to come out and they get the football to start. Bell Chase gets the football to start. First play, there's a fumble, and Iowa recovers, takes it up the sideline to the 2-yard line. They're set up first down, goal to go with a chance to extend their lead to 2 touchdowns, and that changed the whole game. Iowa takes the 2 touchdown lead. Look, they're able to. Bell Chase is able to come back and punch the football in and drive a 54-yard touchdown or 53-yard touchdown run from Dylan Carter, and they were able to get it into the end zone, just to keep it within a touchdown to answer right back. But what a game! There was a lot that went on. In that game, it was physical, as I think we all expected to be. It was chippy from the get-go, but what a football game in Iowa. Headed to the state championship and headed to the Big Easy for the first time in program history. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know you talked a lot with Coach Johns, not only leading up to this game, but all throughout the season, and y'all had him on the Pigskin preview this past week. What about, you said that third quarter, made the game, and you see a lot of good teams really dominate third quarters in any sport. What do you think about what he told y'all this week kind of led into what they did at halftime to take over? Because no score in the first quarter, that looks like a defensive battle, but where in the margins do you think he was able to get an extra touchdown?
It all came on the shoulders of the defense. Again, it was the first play of the second half, and they're able to force a fumble. Ambrose tries to take it left side, and, they come in, pop the football out, and able to take it up the sideline and get it set the offense up, first down, goal to go at the 2-yard line. That's, again, it comes back to defense that, they were able to create turnovers and set the offense up. Look, it was a tough night for the offense. I mean, I said it. I mean, Lawson Broussard didn't have a great night last night. JV and Adams had some. I mean, look, I think he still ran the football well. He just had some tough runs. That defensive front is good. I mean, my goodness. I knew they were going to be good going in and watching a little film on Bell Chase, but that was one of the best defensive fronts by far I've ever seen. And look, they were hats off to Bell Chase, had a great year. I was impressed with what they were able to do. They've got some guys coming back, but that's a senior led team that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed watching. Like I said, it was physical. It was chippy. We kind of expected it to be that way, but look, it was a lot of fun. But it all came back to defense and Iowa being able to force turnovers. And look, Kayston Lewis was the star. Scored 3 touchdowns, had an interception, forced 2 fumbles. Like, the guy, look, we've talked all year long about some of the best athletes in all of Southwest Louisiana. And Kayston Lewis was for most of the year was one of the more underrated guys. Just because he was a defense first guy, didn't play a whole ton of offense. They were kind of saving him and saving his legs for later on in the year. But once they've turned him loose, I am A-OK saying it, one of, if not the best athlete in all of Southwest Louisiana. You can't talk about the Javon Vitals and Jalandon Grays of the world, Isaiah Thomases of the world, and not put him in the conversation. He's a junior. This area's got a really good junior class, and he's right there with them, man. He is special. He's been really good. As Coach Tommy Johns told me the other night after the win versus Lutcher on the postgame show, they got some dogs, but we got a dog too. And one of the names is Kayston Lewis.
Yeah, he had a huge game. And I'd like to ask you a little bit more just about, your coverage of this Iowa program. You know, defeating Lutcher is a huge accomplishment. Defeating Belle Chase is a huge accomplishment. I didn't think they would win either one of those games, and they did. But with your familiarity with Iowa, just kind of fill me in and bring those up to speed who haven't covered them the way that you have on what, why this program deserves to be in the Superdome like this, particularly with the season that they've had this year.
Hey, they took notice of that, by the way. They knew you picked against them.
I always say, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong.
Look, Iowa, before Coach Tommy Johns got there, I mean, look, we know Southwest Louisiana is not known for its football. I mean, obviously everybody knows, it's baseball around here. Hadn't had a team get to the Superdome in quite a while. Grand Lake made it to the state championship a couple of years ago. So did Kinder. But both of those were in Natchitoches during the COVID year. But look, Tommy Johns, for those that don't know, really great dude. In this profession, I get to meet and visit with a lot of coaches. And this. I think anybody who covers knows this. Coaches can be a pain in the you-know-what. And look, Tommy Johns, he was that. He can tell you from the get-go, I first got here and, I was not a fan of Tommy Johns, and he knows that. But look, over the last couple of years, I've grown a friendship with him, like a good friend of mine. I consider him a good friend of mine. So I'm super happy for them. But look, I mean, this is a team that's been building. Ever since he took over back in 2017, it's kind of been building. They were able to make the semifinals for the first time in 2022 when they took on North DeSoto. We talked to him Wednesday on the Pigskin Preview about it, but he didn't think that they were ready for that. He thought the lights were a little too bright for them in 2022. Then they make it to the quarterfinals and they fall in, or they make it once again to the quarterfinals in a couple of years and fall to North DeSoto once again. Last year they make it to the semifinals. They fell behind early, didn't know how they would respond to that. This year, he felt like everything kind of all culminated to this. I mean, we've talked about it all year long, just the perfect season that they've had. And everybody, joked about their schedule early on and how, they haven't played anybody. Prove it once you can play somebody. And I think I'm even guilty about that. I mean, I told you I thought this was the team, one of the three teams that I thought could go undefeated. They ended up going undefeated. And look, they've continued to do it. Look, and here's the thing. They get the first round bye. They get punched in the mouth by Northwest. Nobody knew how they would respond because they haven't been challenged all year long. They get punched in the mouth against Northwest, and they come away with a 40-point win. It's a 2-point game at halftime. They come away with a 40-point win. The Lutcher game, they've got a 2-point game at halftime. They ended up weathering the storm, finding a way to get the win against a really good Lutcher team who that's a 10 seed, but in my opinion, that's not a 10 seed. And I think a lot of people would agree with that as well. That offense is really dynamic. What they can do defensively is really impressive. Not a 10 seed. May show a 10 seed on paper, not your average 10 seed. And then look, this Belle Chase game, I think when you look at the picks from across the state, everybody was split. It was two really good defenses versus, Iowa's offense, who's pretty good and has been pretty good all year long. And it was stopping the run game of Belle Chase, and they were able to do that. And it's an exciting time for Iowa. Obviously we cover all Southwest Louisiana schools, and when the playoffs come, as we get deeper in the playoffs, we'll latch on to them, and we've done that. We've done that actually the last all 3 years we've done this. Iowa's been the team we've finished with, so it's exciting. I remember the first year we did it, we went to North DeSoto, and everybody, I was always worried when we started this whole football thing. Hey, is anybody going to listen? Is anybody going to know? And the first year we started it, we walked into the to the Southern Classic Chicken in Manny, as we took a quarterfinal trip with Iowa, and they had their fan bus there, and we walked into a standing ovation for some damn odd reason from the Iowa fans, and it was one of the coolest things. And since then, like I said, we've ended our season every single year with the Iowa Yellow Jackets. And look, this is a community that's been battered. They've lost two of their own over the last couple of weeks and month. It's been a tough couple of weeks for them. Mr. Russell Hardy passed away, and then so did their public address man, Mr. Dawsey. So they're playing for a little something. And look, now they get to set up their first ever state championship game in program history.
I'm not sure if 92.9 will be there to cover that game. Oh, good, great. So y'all have the call for that one.
Yeah, we're already set up. Talked to my guys at the LHSAA last night.
Great, fantastic. I'm glad y'all get to do that. And then another game, North DeSoto, who's who has put up points all this season and also has a good defense. Your early thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, it's funny because I texted my good buddy Logan Morrison, who works at North DeSoto. He's from Leesville, coached at Leesville, Pickering, all that. I texted him last night. I said, "And we meet again." And he said, "We will." He said, "It's how it's meant to be. 1 versus 2, the best 2 teams going at it." Look, that's what it is. I think we've all kind of said that, North DeSoto probably the best team in that division, just because what they can do offensively and defensively. What they can do offensively is just so unique. I mean, they run up and down the field. I mean, as soon as they catch the football, they're ready to snap it. Like they've got you on your heels the entire time, and that was something Iowa struggled with in quarterfinals a couple of years ago. But look, they've had a good defense all year long. The last couple of weeks, they've given up points. So, they've given up 40 points in back-to-back weeks,
yeah, you're right.
but they've been able to weather the storm. They've trailed in back-to-back weeks, and they've been able to come from behind and get wins. Last night, down a touchdown, I believe, in the fourth quarter, and they were able to find a way to come back and get a win. And look, it's going to be interesting. Iowa's going to have to figure out a way to stop that offense. I'm sure Coach Tommy Johns is already losing sleep over that, but it should be a lot of fun. It all comes back to Iowa's defense, I think, versus that North DeSoto offense is the matchup.
Well, we talk about championship pedigree so much, and with Iowa, a lot of times you just lean on that. Well, this team has been here before, so we'll go with them. But now Iowa has been there, not only this year making it, but being a semifinal, a post-Thanksgiving team. So now Iowa literally is developing that championship pedigree to where people all over the state can lean on them and look at them now and give them that recognition. You personally and your team have been a huge part of that recognition that they're now getting. And so thrilled for you that all the work that we do all year, and you'll get to be in the booth in the Superdome for one more game to close out the high school football season. So I'm sure that's exciting for you and your crew as well, as hard as y'all work, going back to training camp.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Hey, some of the Iowa people told me that that you just need to keep picking. You need to pick North DeSoto this week.
I'm gonna write that down. Okay.
But yeah, look, should be a lot of fun. I've called a game in the Superdome. Excited to get back. So really excited to get there and rock and roll. I know my guy Pat's never called a game in the Superdome. We're also, I think, gonna add not 100%, but I believe we're gonna add East Ascension coach Brock Mathern. Is going to join us for the call of that game too.
Oh,
so
cool.
That should be fun. We're also going to still do our pigskin preview. Coach
Great.
Tommy Johnson. No Pat this week. Pat's on the road to Branson, so no Pat this week. So it'll just be me and Coach Johns, which could be a little scary, but we're going to have some good fun.
Well, again, yeah, very happy for the Iowa community. They deserve it. Very happy for you that you get to work one more week. You deserve that as well. So pigskin preview will be this Wednesday at 7.
Yep.
Okay, 7 o'clock regular time for the preview, and then 92.9 The Lake will have that game on Friday. So
Yes,
Iowa at North DeSoto. Chasten, thanks for spending time with us like you have all season, and we'll have fun prepping this game this week.
Appreciate you guys always. Remember to pick North DeSoto.
Okay, thank you. I got it written down. Chasten Tavares, 92.9 The Lake, and the pigskin preview, able to get another gig next week covering Iowa and North DeSoto. Had an overtime game in Division III Select, Notre Dame and Calvary Baptist. Let's bring on Shannon Belt from the Lafayette Advertiser 337 Preps. And Shannon got some free football last night.
Oh, yeah. Even though it was cold, I was excited for it. Man, it just came down to the wire. Notre Dame had, I think, 3 chances to win the game. They had the chance before overtime on the kick. The kick got blocked. for what could have been the game-winning field goal. And then in overtime, I think Calvary Baptist got the ball first, scored. Then Notre Dame got the ball. I think they're at the 3-yard line, and then PI on Calvary Baptist. So now you get one more chance, and that was 3-yard line, 4th and goal. They get the PI, one more chance, and we're gonna score on the same play that they scored on to get them to overtime with Jokum, and they read it, and he was so close. He was so close because they had just ran that play like maybe a few minutes ago, and he had got on the outside, got into the end zone. And I think he was trying to do the same thing, but he cut too soon. And the crease wasn't there. And then boom, that was it. Poor Notre Dame.
Well, so yeah, I mean, a great program that's used to winning, and a coach that's just a legend around the state.
Yeah.
Calvary's, they've gone on the road 2 weeks and kind of take on between Jules Sumner and Notre Dame, kind of more ground and pound teams, and Calvary can do that, but they've also, if they can score 50 points, they'll do that. Do you think it was more of a defensive battle last night, or which team could possibly outscore the other?
I think it was a defensive battle. It was a lot of 4th down stops, 3rd down stops, especially in the beginning. I felt like, oh yeah, this is gonna probably be more low scoring, because I looking at the size of Calvary Baptist, I thought that they were gonna like just come in and the quarterback was gonna just start launching it to number 1 and number 2, the 2 wide receivers for them. But they didn't. I don't know. That defense from Notre Dame was swarming. Like they were pressuring. I think Hudson Price was the quarterback. I think they were pressuring him tough in the first half, but then the second half, the pressure kind of let up, and they were able to catch up because they were down like 14 points. Scored right before halftime, made it 7 points, then tied it up, then took the lead, and then slowly. But then whenever Notre Dame got the ball, they drained that clock, ground and pound their way. And I think it was one time they didn't score, and that could have been that difference maker for Notre Dame, because they had got like in the red zone area, but then it was a turnover and downs. And then that's when I think Calvary Baptist came back, boom, 28-21. And it was a defensive battle for sure. And I just think Notre Dame ended up eventually kind of wearing out when it comes to that pass game from Calvary Baptist, because they started getting going and getting hot. And I think it was the screen passes that were killing them. It wasn't even any deep shots. It was a screen pass to number 1, and he beat one man, and there was nobody else to beat. And then he took off. So it just came down to it, and I just think Calvary Baptist made more plays than Notre Dame.
One more play.
Literally one more play.
So you've seen a lot of this bracket in particular. LCA took a loss last night, a close one, but you've gotten to watch them throughout the season. You've gotten to see Notre Dame too. This Division III Select's kind of a really special bracket, because you got a lot of those 2A schools that are just big enough to have the big football rosters that they need, but small enough to really manage them the way they want. And that's why you see a lot of Division III Select football teams that are just so good and can compete in any bracket. It'll be Dunham and Calvary, but what are kind of your overall thoughts about this bracket in particular? Because 337 has a lot of teams that really do well in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this was, if anybody was going to make it from the area, I thought it would be in this bracket. Notre Dame, you had LCA, Catholic New Iberia, reigning champs on that level. But then once they started getting pitted against each other, I'm like, okay, someone's got to go. Okay, LCA takes out Catholic New Iberia, and then just so close. I don't know what came down to it in that game, but I was keeping up with it. I'm like, they're going blow for blow, blow for blow, blow for blow. And then I think it must have come down to a 2-point conversion for Dunham to win it. And man, I'm so sick for LCA, because my money was on them, to make it to the Dome this year. And I mean, they got so close between them and Notre Dame, of the final 5 teams in the area. Those two were so close, overtime, and then a 1-point loss. I mean, man, but that area's, that division is loaded. I should say. And I think it's going to continue to be loaded.
Yeah, I believe I saw last night, and I forget who it was. Otherwise, I'd credit him. But first time that there's not an Acadiana area team in the Superdome, I think since like 1994 or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook too. I think Jamarcus Fitzpatrick's posted that.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Credit to him.
And yeah, I'm like, man, it's the first time of course, I wasn't even born back in 1994. So, but for it to be that long since it happened, it's surprising. I think it was a really abrupt end to the football season
Mhm.
out here, and I think it's going to leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth for next season, because I know they're not used to not having anybody go to the Dome, at least one team.
Yeah. Well, you've got a few new district arrangements that will take shape for next fall. But with Lafayette Renaissance kind of growing their program, and Turling's having the season they had, Lafayette Christian having the season they had, Acadiana seems to be right back on the rise. Cecilia made a playoff run. I know I'm Southside. Good grief, they're going to be really good for years to come. So you've got a lot of really high quality 3-3-7 football to anticipate for next season. I know that you've kind of really ramped up basketball coverage at the prep level here, as this month, as we've gotten into December. So as football winds down, I'm sure we can see you covering winter sports and including basketball, in the upcoming months.
Oh yeah. I'm a big basketball fan. Of course, I used to play it. I understand it more. I've never played football, so I'm excited for basketball season. It's getting too cold outside for me. I'm ready to get inside the gym, and but yeah, I'm excited. I know last year no area team won a state championship. The closest, no area boys basketball team, I
Boys,
should
yeah.
say. Yeah, girls basketball LCA, and that they're gonna be. My money's on them again.
Yeah, they're on a roll again.
Yeah, they're on a roll again. They with Kalia Samuels leading them. But boys side, St. Thomas More was the closest. And that was a magical season. I mean, they made it to Lake Charles off of like 2 buzzer beaters back to back. I remember that. I'm like, oh my, I was there for I think one of them, and then I couldn't believe that they did it again in like this quarters or something like that. So it should be interesting. We'll see. We'll see what basketball has in store. Like, but since football is no state championships, it's kind of like basketball needs for the area wise. If we want some of that hardware, got to put up.
Fly that 3-3-7 flag. A really good game between Calvary Baptist and Notre Dame, and I'm so glad that you were there to cover that and share your thoughts on it. And I will absolutely be following you this season on the court to continue your really fantastic coverage in the 3-3-7 of prep sports. So Shannon, appreciate you talking Notre Dame and Calvary with us this morning. And like I said, I'll be bugging you all basketball season for sure.
I look forward to it. Thanks for
Thank
having
you for
me.
your time. Yeah, have a good morning. Appreciate you so much.
You too.
That's Shannon Belt with the Lafayette Daily Advertiser and 3-3-7 preps. She was at the Notre Dame and Calvary game last night, and she's really as good as it gets on X for sure. I love to keep up with her work there. Another fantastic journalist in the South Louisiana area, Caroline McPherson, founder and publisher of SEC.com. And Caroline, been a big week in high school football, but also with signing week and college football heading towards their postseason. You've been busy as well.
Yeah, and also with all the coaching changes, I feel like half the SEC didn't have a head coach last week, and then all of a sudden on Sunday, every team in the SEC has one. So yeah,
they've
there's
all got new rosters
in my world.
Yeah,
But,
so just your early thoughts on some of that before we take a look at the website this week. Just I guess we'll start with LSU. That's where you're a student, but did get, I believe you reported a signing from Lamar Brown last night. They took a loss in the semis, but how's that LSU class shaping up early on?
yeah, so I have been looking on Twitter. A lot of them on there will say, I'm going to wait on my signing, or they say, I'm ready to sign. They all have different opinions on it. And then yesterday, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but Lane Kiffin said that Blake Baker was going to come back for another season as defensive coordinator. So after that happened, we had a good bit come through. And I think Lane Kiffin said, I think it was on X, he said he signed more 5-star recruits at LSU than he did in 5 days than he did at Ole Miss in 6 years, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm excited to see, especially with Blake Baker coming back. I feel like a lot of the recruits, they're all looking for, okay, Lane Kiffin's head coach, but who's going to be my coach for my position and where they can feel best fit at. And so I think it's very beneficial for LSU that he's coming back.
Any particular signings or commitments or anything for players around the state that have caught your eye, whether it's LSU or not, or even other conferences besides the SEC? Because I know it's been a while. Kenny Darby committing to Kentucky, that was a recent piece of news. But what else stood out to you the most?
There was quite a few. I was putting them all in a spreadsheet, and I was like, some of these people I wrote articles on, and they're no longer committed to where they were going. So I think the one that probably surprised me the most was Kervin Johnson, just because he went from Tech and then he decommitted and committed to LSU after Brian Kelly got fired. And then when Lane Kiffin came, he decommitted. Now he's at Ole Miss, and he signed with Ole Miss. So that one was probably the most surprising to me. But yeah, there was quite a few that changed up on me, and there's some that still haven't even committed after they decommitted. So I'm excited to see where they choose to go to.
Yeah, that was crazy too. Yeah, just some of the 2 and 3 schools involved there. And as far as the website, anything new up on the website this week as it pertains to the playoff or the conference championships?
Yeah, so I have right now, I'm focusing on the SEC championship, which is today. It's Georgia and Alabama, 2 teams that I didn't think at the beginning of the season would be there. And we also have a playoff bracket on there too. And it's based on the current rankings, but you'll go to the football section of it, and then it should all be there for you. And I will have the spreadsheet up on there for the recruits that have signed once I get all that finalized. Because you see, like you said, I mean, they had signing day 2 days ago, and then the number 1 recruit for LSU and for pretty much any football program, Lamar Brown, he didn't sign until yesterday. So
yeah, interesting to see, kind of really how the playoffs works into that too. Because Lamar, he's got a college decision to make, but he also had an overtime game last night, that he had to prepare for. So a lot goes into that. As far as the rematch between Alabama and Georgia, gosh, they've faced off so many times throughout the year. I think that was like Tua's first breakout game as a quarterback was when he came in at halftime and beat Georgia in the championship. So your thoughts on the last 2 teams in the SEC standing, not a huge surprise, but this season covering SEC football for you, kind of where are you at with the season that you just covered?
I think it's really crazy because you have a Texas team that played their best game and beat Vanderbilt, one of the teams that looks pretty much strong all year. And then you have Texas A&M who's gone undefeated, but they haven't played teams like Ole Miss or Alabama. I think probably their biggest competition game probably was even LSU, and they blew us out. So they didn't really have much competition, and it's just kind of goes to show, like, they go and they lose 1 game to Texas, their last regular season game, and they got knocked out of the SEC championship. So I think going into this game, I think it's going to be really interesting, especially seeing how when they played previously this season, it was when everyone was ready for Kalen DeBoer to hit the road. Everyone thought Alabama was not Alabama anymore. And then they go up and upset the Dogs and gave them their first loss. And I can't even remember how many years. I wrote a article on it on my website, but it was their first loss at home. And, I wish I could remember the years, but it was a lot of them. And so I'm excited to see, because at the same time, Georgia, they're a good second half team. And I've seen games this season where I'm like, is this going to be an upset? And then they always know how to finish. So I'm excited. And I think especially with it being a 3 p.m. game, it's going to be interesting. And I'm excited to see, after all of the conference games today, how that playoff bracket's going to be secured.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that Tulane might actually sneak in there. They got a win last night in their conference championship, so I believe they might actually be a part of that playoff as well. And so we talked about some of these powerful football offenses. Lady Tigers are just in triple digits on a nightly basis. I'm sure that's been a blast for you to cover in the early part of the college hoop season.
Oh yeah, I mean, last night was probably our first like competition game. We played Duke, and in the first 2 minutes, it was like 1-13. I said, "Get this off of my screen. We look like a middle school basketball team." But I think at one point it was 17-3. Duke was up on LSU, and within like 2 minutes or something, LSU was back on top. I think there was 7 ties and like 6 lead changes. Like, it was a good game, and then
Classic
LSU
basketball.
still ended up winning by 17 points at the end. It was 96-70, I think, something like that. But I think LSU could have scored 100 points in that game, but you could tell they were trying to run the clock out. But every guy loses a streak at some point. But yeah,
Right,
I think scoring is not going to be a problem for LSU, especially our entire bench has pretty much scored every game when they play. If you go look at the stats, it's kind of insane, and a lot of them are freshmen, so it's really impressive. But yeah, our defense, we can score. We just got to stop the other team from scoring.
Well, yeah, it's been that's been an exciting season for Coach Mulkey and her crew so far, and a really busy week for you trying to cover this early signing day period. I know you were on top. A lot of those things were just coming down to the day of, and that news is still trickling in this week. So you've done a great job covering this particular signing week, and just watching the website all season. I mean, you seem to become friends with some celebrity every single week. So, I hope you still remember us once you just launch into the stratosphere. Caroline McPherson is the founder and publisher at SEC.com. High school football, college football, basketball. If you're interested in it, Caroline has probably studied it to some extent. So, Caroline, thanks for your time as always again this morning. And I will keep bugging you about recruiting news around the state.
Of course, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Thanks to Caroline McPherson, who helped us all season with SEC and really has done a good job on some of those recruiting, stories that develop throughout the regular season. I want to thank everyone who joins us this morning. Jace Lejeune with Gridiron Football, Austin Watley with the walkthrough in Gina, Chasten DeVars, 92.9 The Lake, Shannon Belt with the Lafayette Advertiser, and Caroline McPherson with See Inside the SEC.com. I want to thank Doug Gann, our executive producer, always helping us getting this show off. We'll be in New Orleans next week for the Superdome. So not really 100% sure yet what we'll do as far as the Red River Roundup goes, is we'll be on location with some games yet to be played as far as Saturday morning goes. But for everyone who's been watching and watched with us this season, thanks so much. We're having a blast doing this, recapping high school football every Saturday morning. We know a lot of people around the state do this as best they can, and we're happy to be a part of it as well. So stay tuned to 446 Sports. We'll be covering the Prep Classic all week long, all the way through Saturday afternoon. So stay tuned to 446 Sports. Not sure how the schedule will work out just yet, but we'll certainly do our best to bring that coverage for you. And like I said, thanks to everyone for hanging out with us this morning. Show's live at 8. You can catch it on demand afterwards. And stay tuned to the Red River Roundup and 446 Sports all next week as we drive to the Dome. My name is Marshall Leffler, and you've been watching the Red River Roundup on 446 Sports.